It's a defining moment for me because it was the day that I became who I wanted to be. I was brought up in quite humble beginnings, council estate in Brighton. I didn't know my dad for the first 25 years of my life. Probably especially my nan taught me how to bake at a very young age, so it was in the heart and the blood. So my mum married and my stepfather was quite abusive, so I had quite a difficult childhood after that. When I was about sort of 10 or 11, I immersed myself in baking, and that was my kind of escape, really. Food is always a part of my reason for being, really. It's in my DNA. We got to a point where I had a breakdown. It was the 10th of October 2010. You always know the exact date when you are taken into hospital. My mum said to me, "You need to change your life." And I said, "I want to start a little bakery. I just want to go back to basics, nice little cottage industry, go and just bake. That's all I want to do." So that's where Piglets Pantry was formed. What I would say is it's also given me strength and courage and the ability to always kind of look at things and think there is a worst outcome. We've been there. Nothing gets worse than trying to take your own life. That's pretty traumatic. I try and go for a swim or do something for myself every single day, whether that's walking along the seafront with a nice hot cup of chocolate and just looking at the world and thinking how great it is to see the sea, stormy day or whatever it might be. It's just giving yourself that kind of permission to stop and breathe and just, go, life's not that bad, really, is it? Now I live and breathe it every day, so I get to do what I love every single day, which is, I think the gift I gave myself 13 years ago. I love what I do. I love getting up every morning. I love creating new products. I love having a brief that comes on my door that nobody else can do and we achieve it. It's certainly not for the money, absolutely not. See failure as a stepping stone to the success you're going to be.
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. Through sharing the stories of our guests, I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Nostos, an authentic experience of Greece right here in the heart of Hove. In a world brimming with dining options, finding that one place that captivates your palate and heart isn't always easy. It's about more than food. It's the stories, the ambience, the slice of another world. This is the essence of Nostos, an award-winning Greek restaurant. With traditional recipes passed down through generations, each dish promises a story and a piece of heritage. And Nostos is more than just a restaurant, it's a community contributor. Each dining experience supports initiatives close to their heart, from local charities to cultural events, enriching Brighton and Hove's social fabric. They also provide catering services, bringing Greek cuisine to your personal events. For a taste of Greece without leaving town, visit nostos-hove.co.uk. And when you do go, say Sam recommended the feta nests. Oh my God, they are amazing. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. My guest this week is Chief Food Lover at the fantastic award-winning handcrafted food producer Piglets Pantry. Their clients include many Premier League football clubs, including a mighty Brighton and Hove Albion FC, and have been endorsed by Paul Hollywood, Chris Evans and Mary Berry for the best pie at Carefest. I am delighted to welcome Joanna Hunter to the podcast. Jo, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Sam. Nice to see you again.
Amazing. Listen, I know we've gone back and forth a few times and I've been so excited about having you on. We've spoke at different events about your journey and stuff, and then I'm so glad that we're going to be able to share it with everyone today.
It's good to be here.
It's going to be awesome. Right, we're going to start as always. Look, everyone's story starts somewhere, right? So we're going to kick off with our life in 60 seconds, but tell me something about life growing up that's shaped the person that sits in front of me today.
60 seconds, right, okay. I was brought up in quite humble beginnings, council estate in Brighton. So my family are actually originally from Lancashire, though. My mother and father are both from Lancashire, but my mum came down here, and I didn't know my dad for the first 25 years of my life, which I found challenging, and eventually went and sought him out. So a bit later in life, when I was about 25. So challenging childhood, beautiful childhood with my grandparents. The first 6 years of my life were amazing. My grandparents, probably especially my nan, taught me how to bake at a very young age, so it was in the heart and the blood. She taught me how to make shoe buns from nothing. Coming from a kind of war family, everything was kind of fairly scarce, but she just magicked up this amazing kind of creations that just were wonderful. I just remember Sunday tea at my grandparents' house just being this just big affair. High tea was just the highlight of the day sort of thing. So great memories from my grandparents. Sadly, not so great after that, because my mum married and my stepfather was quite abusive. So I had quite a difficult childhood after that, growing up. But the one thing I do sort of take from that is when I was about sort of 10 or 11, I immersed myself in baking. And that was my kind of escape, really, both at school and at home. So I used to bake for living, really, just to be alive, and it was my kind of escape route. So yes, sort of bittersweet childhood, tinged with difficulties that I spent a lifetime trying to forget, I suppose, and still have to kind of battle with today.
Wow. Thanks, Michelle. I guess that I'd be keen if you're okay to talk about that, I guess that period, and because like I say, for me there is so much in what happens in our childhood and what happens in that does shape like where we are and where maybe our drive and ambition comes from and all them things. So just like, I guess school life as well, and like you mentioned obviously that abusive sort of relationship with your stepfather, like just talk a little bit about that period sort of growing up, I guess.
Yeah, I was bullied at school a little bit too. I went to an all-girls school, so I think because I was bullied at home, I was bullied at school, it was just tough, there was just no real kind of, I had ice skating and roller skating, and I had stuff that all children do, but going home was hard, and it took me a long time to be able to tell my mother what had been going on. So I spent from the ages of about 5 or 6 when they married to the age of about, I think, 12 or 13. When you're abused as a child, you split off into 2 people. There's the abused child that kind of lives their life, and then there's a bit of you that you save back for yourself to try and protect yourself. And that's the bit that when I went to counselling finally, my mum rang Childline actually. She spoke to the Esther Ranson Childline and got me some help. And I went for about 3 or 4 years of counselling in Maidstone, and that helped me get back to being one person and moving forward into my adult life as I am today. So the Mrs. Piglet you see today is the culmination of lots of help and lots of advice, and just working through how you get from A to B, and just you lock yourself away, and so trying to move forward with that was tricky. So it wasn't an easy time. It was a difficult time.
You saying at school as well, what was school life like? You saying about being bullied, but did you get on alright at school, or was it just that whole period?
I didn't like school much. I wasn't great at school. I was great. I was an A-class student. They wanted me all to do kind of academia, but my mum fought for me to do food tech at school. It's called home economics back then. I'm a little bit older now. But yeah, she fought for me to get the O-levels in food, because that's what I wanted to do. And I was in a class at grammar school where you were expected to go on to university and all of that. So my real kind of like turning point was when I went to Pelham Street College and learned and went straight into kind of catering. And I loved college. I think in contrast to school, catering and food was just everything I knew. It came from the heart. It was what I'd loved as a child, what I had brilliant memories of it, and I had some great friends, and I had a great time. I just, I partied my way through college. I don't think I went to bed very often. I think I got up and did, being from quite a sort of humble background, we had to earn our money if we wanted to go out. So I went to the Grand and the Metropole, and I set up and did waitressing in the morning for breakfast, went to college, came back, did all the galas in the evening, waitress for those, did silver service waitressing, and then went out and partied, and fell into bed for a few hours and started again. So my childhood, my teenage years were a lot better, and having been able to tackle with my mum what had happened, and eventually obviously I was able to live in my home again without my stepfather there, was then sort of switched around. It was like an opportunity to kind of rebirth, if you like, of just actually doing something that I wanted to do, and having a nicer environment at home helped that, really.
Yeah, amazing. And then what, I guess, like, what led you to want to go and seek out? You mentioned about going and seeking out your father as well. When did that sort of come around?
I think it was always there. So when you are, my mum and father didn't decide they weren't going to get married, and mum left, and allegedly, it depends on who you ask, which parent you ask, allegedly he didn't want to know. And then latterly he said he did try and come and find me. My mum said that she has no knowledge of that, so we'll just agree to disagree, I think, on that one. My mum had a really, really good friend who sadly died of cancer, but she was like my auntie, and I spoke to her, and she sought him out and wrote letters, and she knew exactly where he was. They'd always known where he was, which was frustrating because I'd wanted to know a lot earlier. But I was pregnant with my second child, and when we first started writing to each other. But it's this kind of, I don't know, it's difficult to explain. When you've never known who your parents are, but you know they're there, it's like that kind of, what are they like? You know, do they like red wine? Do they like baking? Apparently yes to both of those. So it was that kind of, that nagging feeling of, I just need to know. And it doesn't matter whether it works out or doesn't work out. Actually, that's not true, because it didn't work out, sadly. But at the time, it was just this burning desire. So we met, and we spent 2.5 years. I moved up there, which was my biggest mistake. Moved up there, and we kind of just immersed ourselves in trying to fit in 25 years of life, which is exhausting for most people, and hard for his wife. And his wife made him make a decision on whether it was his daughter or his relationship. So I haven't seen my father since then. I moved back out of Blackburn in Lancashire, came back down here, which I wanted to do anyway because I love the sea. But yeah, it was the rejection of the highest order, really. Doesn't get much harder than that in relationships.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I did find out he bakes, and he had a bakery, and he made pies, and we worked together for a while. And I do know he likes red wine, and we are in touch on Facebook at the moment. There's lots of regret there, but for me it's too difficult to reach out and have a proper relationship because I was too hurt.
Are you open to that maybe in the future? Is that
I'm talking to my sister. She said he could have handled it better and didn't handle it very well. I don't know. I think he would have to come and find me. I've done all the running and the reaching out I'm ever going to do. I just think, you get to a point in later life where you're just like, it's time for someone else to do that work now. We'll see how that goes.
And interesting with the bakery side of stuff as well. So you say he had a bakery as well?
Yeah, he had a small bakery and was feeding all the factory workers in a little place called Oswaldwhistle, which is just outside Accrington Stanley, around that area. And every day people would come in, and it needed a massive old bakery with old ovens, and they'd come in and they'd have pie mashed peas and gravy, or pie peas and gravy, and he'd have this staunch following. He did all the kind of local markets. It was amazing. And I was fascinated by that whole entrepreneurial idea of getting up and creating what you need to create to feed your family. It was for me it was it was an interesting world that I hadn't been exposed to before, but not something that I got into till a lot longer after that. So it's but it's interesting that it's in both our blood, I think, the love for making food.
And go back I guess to school life, and then coming out and getting into catering and the different things that you did. What was that was obviously your passion.
Yes.
Right? And it was always going to, but you did have a career in sales and marketing and different loads of why did that happen? What with the sales and marketing, those type of roles? What was it that you come away from catering a little bit then?
I did an apprenticeship straight out of college, so I did my HND, got all my qualifications, and then I went on to do an apprenticeship with then Gardner Merchants, which is now I think Sodexo. Worked at American Express in the Blue Box and did all my training, and helped to run Preston Street for a while. But I was quite disillusioned in that part of the industry. It was not what sold us. I mean, when you've been making everything from scratch, and it's all scratch bake, what we call scratch baking, which is kind of what we do now, it was not like that. And contract catering is so different, and I just was a little disillusioned with that, with the hours, with the pay, with the whole piece of it. Really, it wasn't really what I'd done my training for. So I kind of fell out of it. I fell out of love with it for a little bit, and mostly by accident. I kind of went into doing some temp work into the medical insurance world at the time. Completely left curve
Yeah,
ball.
yeah.
But doing a management course at college means you can flex. So
Yeah,
you've
sure.
got like, I mean, I can do anything from accounting to speak basic French. So it kind of goes with it. It's versatile. So it took me across to that. And I had 2 children, which again, catering is tough when you've got kids. It's difficult when they're young. And then I was a single mum. I got married and we got divorced 5 years later. So I had an 18-month and a 3-year-old to look after. And I had to pay for everything. You know, there was a lot of pressure to go out and earn money and just survive, really. So I went through different jobs. Ultimately, sales marketing is good at earning money, and you know, that's kind of where I sort of stayed for a while until the children were a lot older and off to university, and then, you know, time for me to reassess, really, I think, at that point.
And was that in the back of your mind during that period? Was there an inkling that you're going to start your own business, or was there, I'm going to get back into baking or catering at some point? Was there always...
There's always food in my life. I taught at Lewis College for a while. I taught food at Lewis College for a while, so I did that. My family and friends, big parties, always feeding people. Food is always a part of my reason for being, really. It's in my DNA. But to start my own business, no. That came at a part in my life when... so it's going to get a bit more morbid now. I feel like this is a real downer for Christmas. But we get... sorry, guys. We got to a point where I had a breakdown. It was the 10th of October 2010. You always know the exact date when you are taken into hospital for psychiatric reasons. And I had a complete break in my life. There was lots of reasons for it. I mean, stress, too much work, corporate life, overworking, not giving myself a break, not enough life-work balance. My dad, lots of things, you know. It wasn't just one thing. It was all of it. And nobody was more surprised than me, because I've always been such a strong kind of, everything will be all right, let's just get on with it. You know, no matter how much it is or how bad it is, it will be okay. So to take that time, I was in hospital for 10 days. And life just stops, you know, nothing happens when you go into a mental health hospital. You've just got nothing but time to talk and figure out how the hell you got there. And for the first 5 days, I hadn't got a clue who I was, let alone why I was there. And so I spent the next 5 days trying to figure out what I was going to do about that and talking to lots of people. And I sat in the gardens at Worthing Hospital, amazing people up there, by the way. Big shout out to them. I sat in the hospital. My mum said to me, you need to change your life. And I said, I want to start a little bakery. I just want to go back to basics, nice little cottage industry, go and just bake. That's all I want to do. So that's where Piglets Pantry was formed. And the name literally in that hospital is where we came up with it. I borrowed the front of a restaurant in Shoreham. I spent £300 a month. Lovely people at the beach house, which it was that back then. And yeah, that's what I was going to do. 3 months renting, no pressure. Sat there and baked 100 products a day with my son. Came up with different ideas every day. That was going to be my dream, really.
Wow. Jo, I'm so grateful for you, I think, and I know the listeners will be as well, just grateful for your openness and honesty around that subject as well, because I guess that knowing you in the short space of time I have, I would describe you as that strong character. You seem to, just get up and get on with it. I'm just going to do it. We've spoke offline about, you know, of course we've had challenges and faced with this, but I've come up with this and I'm going to do that, and you just someone. So I can't imagine being in that position where, like you said, you're forced to stop and reassess, I guess, where you are. And looking back, I guess, at that period was a culmination of all the things you've mentioned actually in this opening part of the conversation. For anyone, there's quite a lot of trauma to go through, divorce, parents, abuse, and that. Just a culmination of all those things, you think, building up to that led to that point? Or
I don't know. I mean, I tackled it for 3.5 years with counselling, so I'd like to say that I'd kind of put that to bed as such. But, you know, what I do now know is that that's a lovely rose-tinted glasses view of life. Right, I'm going to do some counselling and then there it goes. It's all fine now. It never leaves you. There's always it's always there. It always will be there. It's a part of the fabric of who I am. What I would say is it's also given me strength and courage and the ability to always kind of look at things and think there is a worse outcome. We've been there. We know what worse looks like. Worse wasn't pretty. So nothing can be worse than that kind of that bubble that you sit in for 10 days. And that's worse. Nothing gets worse than trying to take your own life. That's pretty traumatic. How you get there is just anyone it can happen to anyone, any day, any time. You know, you can wake up and not enough sleep, not enough of anything, not enough nourishment in your life, and it can just hit you. And I was always one of those people, I don't understand how that people could do that, make that decision. I've got 2 beautiful children, you know. You don't wake up and think like that. It just happens to you and you have to just deal with it. So I think my children have found it hardest and they find it hard to talk about. And I feel very sad about that because it's hard for me to talk about. But it does give you perspective. It gives you the ability to kind of look at life differently and just think, well, no matter how bad it gets, there's always, you know, another route, another pathway. And that has given me the ability to grow Piglets Pantry into what it is today, I think, because I take that. So if I have people around me in our current working space that have difficulties, it's easy to spot and it's easy to try and help people and just say, look, go and get some help. This is what you need to do. This is what we'll do this together. So it does give you the ability to help others, which I think is a gift that's come out of what's happened, really.
It's one of them that I'm always really keen to talk about this subject on here, and I actually preach quite a lot about asking for help and reaching out. Not always great at it myself, to be honest.
Not many people are.
And I guess that coming out of that situation where I guess you did have to ask for help and you got that, coming out where you are now, you mentioned obviously in work and stuff like that you do, but with the kids and stuff, are you like that? Do you ask for help now? Are you better at that now?
I am better at it now. I have a local support. If I need to go and speak, I can go and just book it in. I just ring up and book in and just check myself in, just to do kind of like checks and make sure that, you know, the stress isn't too much, business isn't taking over too much. I have an amazing partner who keeps me on track and won't let me be too negative. He's probably the effervescence of overflowing positivity, and that is a real counter to sometimes when you are, you know, able to take yourself. And because I am a kind of like an overflowing person or a empty glass. There's nothing in between. So my partner is very good at keeping me alive and awake. That sounds awful, but alive and awake and, you know, vibrant and positive, which is good, because we all need that in our lives. So I think I'm lucky. My family also, they treat me a little bit like broken glass sometimes, but I think they have learnt to accept that even though Piglets has grown into this massive brand, my mum sort of still checks in with me lots, but she has accepted that the work I do today, even though it is stressful, is not the same stress as it used to be before when I wasn't working for myself. So when you work for yourself, I take myself to the gym every day whenever I can. Sometimes I miss it, but I try and go for a swim or do something for myself every single day, whether that's walking along the seafront with a nice hot cup of chocolate and just looking at the world and thinking how great it is to see the sea, stormy day or whatever it might be. It's just giving yourself that kind of permission to stop and breathe and just, you know, go, life's not that bad really, is it?
So I guess, as you have mentioned, when you get to the darkest place you can, and would you say that's rock bottom where you were, and then everything else, like you said, from then nothing can be as bad as that? I've already hit rock bottom, so nothing's as bad as that. So it enables you, gives you the skills and the strength to be able to deal with challenges that are thrown at you from business or life in general.
Yeah, I think so. I think you do, I mean, there's still stresses and, like I'm human, right? But yes, when I think back, that was, how many years, 13, 14, however many years, 13 years ago now. Piglets has been in business now. I look back and think, wow, where do those 13 years go? And it's just been phenomenally fast. I think, you look back and there is always that on 10th of October. There is always that, and I try and encourage everybody to sort of like give themselves a gift, even if it's an imaginary one. You stick something in a box, you open it, and you go, that's for me, that's what I've done today. And it could be anything, it depends what floats your boat. But I think it's really important, especially entrepreneurs, because we are so busy trying to build our empires and our worlds and look after all these lovely people that we employ, that we forget sometimes to just take that moment and just go, well done, you're doing okay, So every year I do try and mark that memory, because it was a difficult time for me. So I have to remind myself of where I've come and how I got there. And I think that's, it's true. After that, everything, there was like before Piglets and after Piglets. And Piglets being the continuity that has given me the ability to blossom and become somebody else, somebody that was always there, but probably should have started a lot sooner doing this and, kept that passion of what I love, which is food. But now I live and breathe it every day. So I get to do what I love every single day, which is, I think the gift I gave myself 13 years ago.
Wow. I mean, it's just such an inspiring story to listen to come from that place and start something that you have.
Brave,
it's
bonkers.
so much, but just strength. Like that's what I just listen to you talk, and I'm in awe really of hearing that story and just thinking, trying to put my head in that place of going, what must it be like to have been in that position? But then actually to come out of that, and like you said, come up with that name and start a business. And here we are, sitting here 13 years later. What an absolutely incredible, just like you said, as a proud moment or just a sign of reflection to sit and just acknowledge what an incredible journey that's been.
It's a defining moment for me, because it was the day that I became who I wanted to be. And we spent a lot of time never knowing really what we want to do in life. I mean, I'd been in and out of all sorts of different jobs, and I've worn different hats. Ironically, none of them were the ones that fitted. And I think, this one fits. It feels good. It feels like who I was meant to be.
I feel like this was your destiny.
Yeah, I do. Exactly that. It sounds a bit cheesy, but yeah, I do feel like it was my destiny. And I think everything after that has just been a series of circumstances that have just fallen into place. I mean, Piglets was supposed to be a little tiny cottage industry. 2 weeks after opening, I'm up at Brighton pitching, pies, for goodness sake. I mean, did I not learn anything really? But yeah, I think everything, they say right time, right conversation, all of that sort of stuff. But it is like that. I mean, every day since then has been a series of events that have led Piglets to be where it is now, really. But all of those are conversations. The conversation that led us to get that first inquiry that then meant that we could snowball from there. It's just been a series of different discussions and conversations. And I think because I do speak from the heart and I am passionate about food and about feeding people, I think it's that's why it's been so successful.
Okay, I'm just going to say something about one of our sponsors, Riverval. The world of cars, vans and minibuses is often a pain point for many of us. The hassle of finding the right vehicle, let alone looking after it, are all more things to add to our lists as busy people. Riverval's mission is to make motoring manageable, and that's why they provide leasing, purchasing, servicing and vehicle management. So whether you have one family car or a fleet of vans for your business, Riverval are your trusted vehicle supplier. Visit www.riverval.co.uk. Okay, let's jump back to the podcast. It's incredible. I mean, I'm really keen to just go like that. You come out and you come up with the idea and you go, so the initial thing was never to grow it to the size it is. Just, I'm going to get back into baking. I love food. let's just start a little.
Yep.
And then, you
I
just
blame my
mentioned-
children. They needed season tickets. If I hadn't have gone to do that, it wouldn't have been. It's all their fault,
Was that
really.
how quick it was? A couple of weeks?
It wasn't 2 weeks, no. So what happened was we went up 2 weeks after we'd started the business. We went up, and my youngest son, was his 18th birthday coming up, and I said I'd buy his ticket, first season ticket. See, it's a defining moment. My children have been fans since they were tiny. So they were all very excited. We're all sitting in the North Stand, all had to sit together, and I was the only person, apparently, that wasn't able to take time off work because I have my own business, because that's how it works, apparently. And the American Express card, so I can go off and do that. So I went up there to help them get all their seats together, and I was blown away by the stadium, I have to be honest. And I've always followed, never used to go to the football with the boys then, but I've always followed Brighton. My grandfather was a Brighton fan, my cousin was a Brighton fan, still is a Brighton fan. I wasn't allowed to go to the 1983 cup game. I was very upset about that. Apparently it was deemed too dangerous. So subsequently I have been to them all, and sent pictures to my cousin who couldn't make it, so that was good. We were up there and we were just chatting to the guys up there, and I was asking, what does community stadium mean to you? It's such a big question, but are you going to be using community, people in the community, food in the community? How's it going to work? What does the stadium look like? And they turned around, and I remember Richard Hever said to me, "You don't make a good pie, do you?" Because I told him what we did. And I was like, surely you've sorted your pies out, the stadium was, in progress. They hadn't got that long at the time. They hadn't got that long. But apparently, no, they'd had I won't tell you who they are because it's not fair, but a competitor in the building the day before, and they'd ended up in the bin. And I was just horrified. I just remember thinking, the boys haven't walked up and down these streets to get this stadium. We haven't fought this hard to get where we are, for you to be just having some substandard product in here. They're not going to be eating that, because I'm not going to allow them to eat that. And so we got chatting, and he said to me, well, if you design some pies for me, I'll buy them. And when you have conversation, you're like, oh, that's never going to happen. I had these, I think I made my cards on one of the online websites, that you can just get them for like £20 or something. They didn't look particularly professional. And I'm like, so I'm giving this. I have a borrowed front of the restaurant. No way am I ever mass producing anything from that. But the whole of that period, we were running up and down to Withdean, met Martin Perry, got to know everybody really well. And they kept asking for samples. I had no food going on up there. So I was dropping in samples, and they did 100 pies around the country, I believe. Elliot, who was the general catering manager at the time, we're now very good friends. He said, we've got a challenge, we need to get it in at the right price, but as always, price is a factor in catering, but we can't get the product we want. So we had a challenge. So it came down to 3 local companies, myself, it was Higgidy's and Four Fires at the time. And we all did our big pitch, and I took more than I wanted to. Some of the products we brought in today, we bought brownies and cakes and scones and all the pies, and I had them all sectioned out. I had Mr. Bloom's pies because there was dietary requirements for that, and that's all that was going into the boardroom. And then I had the 4 pies that we started off and won awards at Brighton Hove Albion. And we'd pick them all apart in my kitchen at home. We'd spent hours and weeks pouring over it, me and my son. And we won the gig, as they say, but no production site. So we came up with my midnight euphoria, as you do when you're in bed thinking about stuff. And I said, well, look, Elliot, you can leverage the costs. We'll come in with a management fee and we'll make the products at Brighton, and we'll be the first company to work together to do that. And PR went mental. Sky came in, and we were on Meridian local news. I think all the radio stations around Sussex were chatting about. We were dropping hot pies in. Great PR, fantastic PR from Brighton, and natural PR. They were brilliant, and it just went absolutely bananas. So we opened up the first. I remember the Tottenham game. I remember the goosebumps and the feeling walking in. And I haven't even I wasn't as invested as some people have been at that stage. But I just remember thinking, God, everyone's crying. I was a bit tearful, and it was just an amazing day. But within 10 minutes, our pies had sold out. So it's not really what you want as an opening gambit. So Martin came down and said, "Jo, you're going to have to make double, you're going to have to make double." At this point, we had a very small team. We were the first people to cook there. We were hand crimping every product. We were hand making every product, literally, no machinery, really. So we made 5,000 pies, and they were everywhere in the stadium. I mean, you know, they were in all the fridges, and we were trying to bake them to order. It was a tall task. We were only supposed to do 2,000, and that was kind of achievable. 5,000 seemed like a mission. And we still didn't hit kick off, and it was like got to 7,500 pies, and Elliot's like, "You're gonna have to leave site, Jo. We just literally don't have the capabilities of doing." I think the head chef had a meltdown. You know, you need to go and find some premises. This is just not going to work. So in 3 days we had to find premises, get it set up, get it audited, and produce 10,000 pies for the next game. So we didn't have any sleep for 3 days. But we hit our challenges. We met the challenges. We got premises locally. I had loads of help. The university, Sussex University, were really helpful in terms of equipment and support, and everybody pulled together locally. Everyone knows everybody in the catering industry here, and I got some really good friends from that. And we set it up, and we managed to achieve our goals. So, and I suppose the testament is 13 years later that last match, I saw our new head chef in there. Adam's brilliant, and he was like, "Oh my God, so many pies, Jo!" And it's still, it's a bumper order last match, and they're still buying. How many? Oh, I think sausage rolls are going well now because they're very popular at the moment. So I think across the board they take, stuff for hospitality. They take it downstairs and upstairs, and originally they were never going to sell pies in hospitality, but because everyone was trying to get them from their friends in retail and passing them up, they were like, we have to put them everywhere. So it's one of those fantastic sort of partnerships where Brighton is the fabric of Piglets, and Piglets feels like it's the fabric of Brighton. We feel like it is a proper kind of feeling. Same with Harvey's, really. It's what you do on match day. People ask me what the guest pie is still, what they can expect when they get there. They have opinions on everything. They have their favourites. We still sell the same amount today, which is mad, really. I mean, there's not many clubs that would support a local company like that for 13 years, never mind, flourish as well as we have. So it's been a journey for both of us, and one that puts on the map. When we say we were born at the Amex, we literally were. That's the first pies we ever made were at the Amex. So I remember my children going up to the boardroom where everyone was going to be sitting and looking out and being like so excited, and just like, look what we're doing, sort of thing. Look what we're building. But it was tough. I mean, those first 3 years was tough because you don't really want 85% of your business in one area. We were working with catering companies, not the clubs, so that was tricky. And every time you get a new catering company, you have to resell the dream. So every time you get a new head chef, you have to resell the dream because people don't understand why we've got so many pies here. Why is everybody buying all of the Piglets Pantry products? Because the fans have grown up through that whole stadium with it, and it's what they do on match day. So I'm very grateful to all of them, every single one, because they made Piglets who we are today.
Wow. I mean, just what an incredible. I mean, there's so many things actually. Right? So, firstly, tell me that moment you get that call to go. Yeah, we're going to go with Piglet. What happens here? What goes on? Is it euphoric? Is it shit? We got to deliver.
Always euphoric. I don't know whether, because of where I've come from, you've obviously had my story there. I don't know if it's just bonkers or whatever, but I've always been like this. So I've always been a person that thinks, right, okay, we'll get it, and then we'll work out how we deal with it. And to my detriment usually, but because I then have to then figure it out, and it's usually painful. But I've never been somebody that thinks I can't do that. It's just not in my DNA to say the word can't, really. I've always been like, yeah, we can do that. We just got to figure out how. It's just, we just got to put the method in behind it to figure out how we get from A to B. And sometimes it can be a painful journey, and no sleep for 3 days wasn't fun, and hand crimping 10,000 pies is definitely not fun, I can assure you, and trying to teach that, impossible. So obviously we had to fill in the gaps around it, but it was never a question that I wasn't going to deliver, and it was never a question that we were going to let the fans down at Brighton Hove Albion. It's never going to happen. No matter what happened, we were going to deliver that. And that kind of sense of just not letting people down, I suppose, but also just, it's a challenge. I love a challenge. I think that's probably what I have learnt about that whole journey, is that's what makes me tick. I love a challenge. I love being able to fix problems, and I love being able to give people solutions, however mad they might seem at the time. I did it because, as it says on our strapline, for the love of food, really. I wanted better pies at Brighton Hove Albion than they were being offered. So that was my goal. Tick the box. I think Martin was saying, can't have too much gravy down the shirt, so the viscosity of the sauce had to be worked on, so that took a while, but we achieved our goal and some, so yeah.
But that again, I'm just trying to piece that piece together, where you go from where you were to that initial idea, to the belief that you can deliver something on that magnitude like that. Like, just from a mindset point of view, I guess pulling yourself out of that dark place, pulling yourself out of a really, really dark place to what's going to get me out is my love of baking, and I'm going to start something small here, to go in, I'm going to deliver 10,000 pies to the MX. Like, just that self-belief. And so where did that come from? That,
I don't know, it's just there. I think it's a difficult one to answer. I think I've always had strength. When you've been through a lot, especially as a young person going through quite a lot of challenges, nothing is as bad as that. I mean, that was a pretty traumatic childhood for me. So I think the strength you draw on is the same strength you draw on for the rest of your life. It gives you that platform to dig deep, to find resources you didn't think you had, because you've had to do that. So it's, I say learned behaviour, sadly, but it is part of my makeup, that I don't take things lying down, and I will just get up and make it happen, no matter what it might be, or no matter what the challenge might be. So I think it comes, as I say, out of the face of adversity comes success, and I think you just have to learn to tap into that and do something beautiful with it, because then something beautiful, it was worth it in that sense, So something beautiful came from something that wasn't a good thing, but is now a beautiful story, and one that we hope is only the start of the journey, really.
Amazing. I mean, you mentioned there as well that those early first few years, the challenges that you faced. We jumped in now and talked about some of those. I guess some of those challenges that you faced, and over the last 13 years. Where does COVID jump into that as well? But talk to me about them early stages as well, like some of the challenges.
Yeah, so the early stages. So when you deal with big contract caterers, it's all about the costs, and you have big procurement people that hammer down pricing because that's their jobs to do that, and that's kind of, that is the world we are in food, unfortunately. And I think also it's a British thing as well, that everyone doesn't pay as much for food as perhaps they should. So I kind of butt the trend a little bit with the whole Brighton pies, and you're going to pay a little bit more, but it's going to be a better quality product, and that's the reason for doing it. But it took a long time to convince the rest of the world that was a good idea. Brighton bought into it, but it took us a while to convince other people, and luckily Elliot moved and went into the Kia Oval and moved on from there, and then spread the word, which was brilliant for me, because that meant other chefs could come and have a look and go, yeah, we want some of that. So we've had to fill in the gaps. So you've gone from like 100 products to 10,000, and then most companies grow a little bit, not like a whole new empire overnight. So we had to fill in those gaps, and again, going back to my partner Steve, he was amazing. He was synonymous in saying, you need to do this, and we need to do this quickly, because otherwise you're going to lose the company. And we had a couple of moments where that was a possibility, more than a couple actually over the 13 years. It happens to most companies, they go through difficulties. But what Steve did was he got us out on a platform and talked to as many people as he could, and joined the company and helped us to grow that story and take it out to the rest of the world. So pre-COVID, we were in about 70 or 80, but really huge, big businesses. They weren't small. All the companies, because obviously that's how we started, were all very similar. So lots of stadiums, lots of events, lots of, big big corporate
So I
companies.
guess once you've got Brighton, that blueprint, it's easier to go and get another.
People kind of like the story as well.
Yeah,
they wanted
course.
a piece of that story. You know, they wanted to bring that to their club. They wanted to kind of offer that unique service, offer something different. We were going into different places. So Leicester Football Club have, you know, the biggest sales in red Leicester sausage rolls. It was like we took what we did at Brighton with the Harveys and the steak and the kind of feeling of local ingredients and having that, and we took that and we put that blueprint into other places and said, right, well, you have something that you could also do something good with, so let's just try that. So between innovation, which is at the heart of what we do, and new product design, which is what we do really well, and small batches of that, we hit on something that was a good blueprint for everybody else. And so we're now very synonymous with being able to deliver something that probably nobody else wants to touch, because most large companies that are producing volumes, especially in the tens of thousands and things, they have very sort of short runs. Everything goes down machinery. It's a different mindset. Whereas I'm like, I don't want to do that. We're all chefs. We're chef-led. Every single one of our departments is headed up by a chef. My head of food is a chef. You know, we wanted to do things differently, and I proved that you can make, I mean, we make 100,000 products this week, you know, you can make that predominantly by hand, and you can have the quality. Might have to pay a bit more money for it, but the results and the you know, the success it's going to bring you is going to be miles ahead of what you could be doing with another company. So that's what set us apart, and that's our DNA really, is to just say, you know, we can bring chefs and we can make you products to your own specifications in volume, and we can deliver it every match day or event or whatever it might be. And we've just got a very good name for that. So pre-COVID was going really well. It's all going in the right direction. We'd moved from our 1,100 little tiny square foot unit where we started 13 years ago into about 7,000 square foot building opposite. So we'd grown. We had 25 people. It was going really well. Settled down, making profit. Everything was great. And then COVID hit. And we were like, okay, 24 hours of complete shock. As a family, we were like, all of us were like in shock. We'd started the bones of a platform of a website, and we always intended selling online direct to customers, but we'd never really got it off the ground. And of course, overnight, everything shut. So all of our entire business was gone, literally. I mean, I think we were playing Arsenal that weekend. We delivered the pies, but we still had other companies that wouldn't take theirs. So I remember really poor during COVID, but I remember the club putting a big outpouring, the Argos getting involved, and the big sort of mention of Piglets have got stock, we need to try and help them get rid of this stock. And I remember a queue around the block, literally at Piglets Pantry, and we had to set up a till because we didn't have one. We had to kind of connect it all up, and we're selling our products literally in boxes, which we didn't really have because we weren't really set up for a bit, you know, kind of like direct to consumer market. And we were just giving, you know, people were coming. I mean, you know, Paul Camlin, bless him, came down, you know, and the guys from Brighton were amazing. They came down and bought products just to try and get us out of a hole. And then we returned the favour and tried to start selling their pies, and we were bringing them back from the stadium to try. It's a bit of just a community effort, you know. But I am, again, goosebump moment. I knew how much the fans cared about us, but I didn't realise they were going to do that. And I think the more I spend with Brighton Hove Albion, the community of Brighton Hove Albion, the more humble I feel, because I just had no idea how much they loved us. So there was that kind of thinking, and then
You've created that cut. Like, look, it says on me to everyone has a story, right?
Yeah.
And it's something so magical about your story, but based around community. And we had Dick Knight on recently, and the episode's coming out soon, and talking about the club as a whole, and there's that community feel, and actually that then buying into you and your story and believing in that. But then because of that, you've created a culture, I'm assuming, within Piglets, but not just the staff and the people that work with you and the chefs and the client and but actually the people that eat by the pies and the fans and everyone there, that you've created this culture. People want to be part of that, and that's something That's something magical that you've created within Brighton itself, I guess. And I'm so passionate about the community here as a whole. It's fantastic, and the club is a big part of that, I guess. But just what an incredible testament to you and I guess that culture. Was that something you was mindful of from the start, or was that something that just grew organically and you built up?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Yes, because that's who I am, and I like helping people, and there's no secret that my team would agree with that in terms of how we behave and the people we employ. But I think it's mostly organic. These things happen. I mean, I've just come back from 3 Europa trips. I have 4 tickets at Heineken Lounge. I am a massive fan of Brighton Hove Albion now. It gets in your skin and it gets under your skin. You know, it just creeps up on you. And I think that's the thing. You know, once you get into this community feeling, and it was definitely a community stadium. I can hand on heart vouch for that. It's you work together, you become one team, really. I mean, you know, you're all there together. You want them to do well. They've done amazingly well, but such a successful story for them too. But you know, we've all done well too off the back of that. You know, we're all successful here, and we're all in it together to. You know, and it does sound, I know it sounds like cliche, but it is true. In this particular instance, it's an unusual story that's just kind of blossomed and grown, and we are all part of the same kind of like future in that sense. But I mean, I knew during COVID that pies and sausage rolls selling from the back door probably wasn't going to sustain our business, funnily enough. And quite early on, we sat down and we designed some Easter hampers for the first, it was coming up to Easter, and we sold out immediately. Everyone bought them locally and they were just gone, and we'd got our platform sorted, and I just had this kind of feeling that actually maybe afternoon teas might be something people quite like to cheer them up. And it was just a thought, you know, as you do, my other midnight thoughts that I have. And I sat down, and there was 3 things that happened. So I sat down, designed the products with my team, and we came up with some ideas and what we thought would make an excellent afternoon tea. I dug out some old recipes. We used to do cakes back then, but not in the volumes we do them today. My old carrot cake recipe that everyone loves in afternoon tea, I've had that since I was 16 years old. So we resurrected some old recipes. We did some from the heart baking, really. It was really just to try and reach out and say to everybody, look, it's going to be all right, you know, let's just cheer each other up, let's send parcels around the country and make everyone smile. And that was my intention. And then Lara, my stepdaughter, she was like, can I take the Instagram account and do something with it? And I had like 100 followers. Not a Scooby-Doo, what I was doing with Instagram. Got to be honest, not my thing. Twitter, yeah, all about that. Facebook, yeah, not so bad. But Instagram, not a clue. So she took that, and she was living her best life. You know, bless her, 18 lockdown, pretty crap. Couldn't go to university, you know. So she reached out to all of the Love Island, Made in Chelsea, Vicky Patterson, and everyone said yes, because they're all sitting at home. Nothing to do like the rest of us. So Laura was running around the country with these afternoon teas, going into outside homes, obviously not allowed to go into homes, but dropping them off, taking photographs, meeting all her kind of the people that she watches and loves, and some of them are now really good friends. You know, she's met them a few times, and she's taken that Instagram account from 100 followers to, I think we're over 62,000 followers now, something like that. And it just went ballistic. At the same time, I was having challenges with the packaging, because I don't know if you know, couriers are not great at delivering. I didn't know this, and I remember my feeling of absolute devastation when I had 2 boxes damaged, let alone when nearly 50% of the Father's Day ones got damaged. So Steve went out and at the same time delivered and found packaging and inserts and the beautiful packaging you see today, all the pink boxes that we're synonymous for. That was Steve's baby. So he built me something that would protect the products that Lara was selling, and you know, Grant and the team downstairs delivered it, and we sold 100,000 afternoon teas, standing start, no budget, no marketing, no plan, 3 million turnover in the first year of COVID, completely by accident, I want to say, because it really was that. It was just us sitting down, mooching around thinking, what can we do? You know, we can't just sit here and take the sign down. We're going to have to do something. It's going on for a lot longer than we anticipated. You know, what are we going to do about that? So out of COVID, we then had to decide what we wanted to do with the rest of our future, because we had this beautiful, brand new, shiny afternoon tea online, cakes online service, and we had our old business of pies, sausage rolls and staples for wholesaling and stadiums. So, and not enough room. Packaging takes up so much room. I had no idea how much you have to have space wise for that. So we took a 28,000 square foot space during COVID, which was a good idea and a bad idea, because I didn't really offload the other one till this year, so that wasn't so smart. But complete blind faith of the fact it would be fine. You know, it's going to be okay.
That's the thing that I'm listening, like, just at every stage, really, challenges, whatever, at every stage, just that. I talk about sometimes on here naivety in business, and actually it's a bit of a superpower, like, because if you look at certain things, you go, oh, could I do that? Would I do that? Maybe, and you can weigh up so much that you just go, oh no, I won't do that. That's going to be really tough. Whereas if you look at certain things, sometimes that bit of naive, let's just give this a go and see what happens, and actually 100,000 afternoon teas in a short space of time, like, just do you look at that like as a bit of a superpower, like that just that fact that it's just like you said, that blind belief that it's going to be all right, I'm just going to do it, it's going to be all right.
Yeah, I think you're just so far when you're in it and you're invested in it, and your idea blossoms, well, more than blossoms. I mean, I think I had a nervous breakdown at one point with Laura's massive marketing push. I was like, I haven't got enough staff to deliver this. I mean, like, I'm making this product and trying to deliver this product, and not enough people. We went from 25 people to 100, literally almost overnight, and that was challenging. But and there's been times where I'm like, oh God, that's such almost ridiculous growth. You know, you can't do that very quickly without breaking a few eggs. Unfortunately, it takes time to fill in the gaps, and it's the same feeling as when I went from 100 products to 10,000 pies. Exactly the same feeling. You know, it was identical, and I was like, well, that worked. We'll get through it. We may have some challenges, but we'll get through it and we will succeed. There's no doubt in my mind that we won't succeed. We will just have to figure out a few things along the way, and some challenges and changes and people and all of the things that go to making a much bigger business. But no doubt in my mind that it will be successful. And I think it's single-minded stupidity, probably, who knows, that doesn't let me falter. I just, and family-wise, we all agreed on it. It wasn't just my decision, because, Steve co-directs with me now, and it was like, well, you can, and at each stage he said to me, when we went to the 7,000 square foot building, he went to me, right, you've got two choices. You can either stay as you are, do a really successful small business, or you can take on all these other contracts and you can go to the next stage. And this is the same thing. You can either keep the B2C and do the online projects and keep it smaller for the wholesale coming back, or you can go into the 28,000 square foot building and we'll fill it. Those are your choices. And at no point has there ever been any doubt in my mind of I'm always going to choose that next stage. And I don't know, I can't,
why
I don't know why. It's just, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people to feed out there. People need this good product, So there's that. There's that, and there's. I love the people that work for me, and we've built a whole new patisserie team. They're amazing. I love what I do. I love what I do. I love getting up every morning. I love creating new products. I love having a brief that comes on my door that nobody else can do, and we achieve it. It's certainly not for the money, absolutely not. So it is all about, giving somebody. It's so lovely when you get a client that comes in and says, we never thought we could have that, and we've achieved that. Our team have achieved that. They're amazing that they've come up with that idea, or they've done something that's different. They've looked at it in a different way, and they've delivered something that nobody else can do. And I think that's why we do it, I suppose. There's not one thing, though. There's not like, there's a secret. It just is. It just is what it is.
I just want to, just looking at it from, go back to that 10th of October, that period, and then you go stress over work and all that, and then
Yeah.
you've started this business that's ballooned into something.
Yeah, my mum's not
huge.
happy.
What's the difference, I guess, between how you got to that place and then arguably a lot more stress and pressure that you're under now, and they have been over the last 13 years, that able to maintain where you are now and your mindset and not go back to that place? But is it because, I don't want to put words in you, but is it because you found your calling and your destiny and that, or because you've been through that? What do you think?
It's because there's 33,000 fans to feed on Thursday that are coming to the Marseille game, and I've got to work out how to do something different for the French that are coming along. And croque monsieurs might be on the menu at North Stand this week. So it is because I need to make a special recipe muffin for somebody who needs it delivering that can't get it from anywhere else, and it's because potentially somebody very famous and may need a special sausage roll next year. Those are the reasons why I get up in the morning, and those are the reasons why it works and what makes it worth all the stress. There's always stress in business. There's as much stress as you want to take or as little as you want to take. And yes, some days are difficult and some days are hard. Some days me and Steve hug each other and go, it'll be all right. We've just got to get through this period and then we'll be on to the next thing. But there is always another thing. And I think the most important thing to remember when you run your own business, or if you're starting out certainly and you're thinking, God, yeah, this is just mad, there will always be that stress, and there will always be a set of problems that need solving, and there will always be sometimes what feels like an insurmountable mountain to climb to achieve some of them. But if you take one step and you ask for help, and the business community is brilliant at that, there's usually people that want to come and help you and want to come on your journey with you and have some ideas and will help you get to that next stage, whatever that might be, whether it's, finding premises or funding or whatever it might be. There are always stresses involved in business. It's just tackling them, breaking them down, getting good people around you to help you. We've got an amazing team. We've built a really good management team now. It's taken us 2 or 3 years to get there in the new building, but we now have a strong management team that lives and breathes Piglets, that run pink all the way through, I would say. And they are the next... They're taking the next level of history, the next level of our story out to people, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud that we can hand it over too, because it's grown now. We can't do it all ourselves anymore. We need those advocates to kind of take it on the next journey for us, really. So yeah, I mean, it's stress, but it's different stress, and I can't explain that because my mum doesn't understand that either. She worries that it's too big, it's too much, and I have my family to remind me of that. So that's also good, because you don't. Whilst they're not holding me back by any means, they're massively proud of what we've achieved. And now my brother and my family are amazingly supportive, but equally they check in and go, "Are you okay? Are you keeping yourself well? Are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you doing all the normal stuff?" And that's good, because you do need to be reminded of that.
This is Geo. Geo runs a scarf company. Geo doesn't see the need for telecoms. Everybody uses mobiles now. But can a mobile really be a business phone? Geo is having coffee with a client, Gabby. Well, actually, Geo prefers acacia leaf tea. But what happens when someone calls? It could be a big new deal. Surely it would be rude to take the call? But many people hate leaving messages. They may just call a competitor instead. What can Geo do? The answer is simple. Turn the mobile into a business phone. With the Go Giraffe app, Geo can quickly transfer the call. Or, before the meeting, Geo can simply use the app to divert calls. No more missed calls, lost deals, or unhappy customers. Turn your mobile into a business phone today. Go Giraffe.
It's so incredible. I think, looking back at any of those stresses and strains, I think I'm probably going to know the answer to this. But has there ever been a point where you've just gone, and that seed of doubt's gone in, and you go, that is one step too far. Maybe maybe it's time to call it a day. Look at COVID, that initial shock of that 24 hours. Has there ever been a point?
There are points, yeah. I think there are points sometimes where it feels the mountain feels a bit too high, or the problem is a bit too difficult sometimes, and you just have to take yourself out of it and just walk away from it for a little while and sit down.
Are you good at
and
doing
talk.
that?
No, my partner will tell you I'm rubbish at that. I am very good at ruminating and stressing and staying up late and worrying about it, but my family are very good at stopping me from doing that. So you have to have a good network around you, good friendships, good people that have all been through that with me and they know me very well. People that I can ring up and say, I need a night out, I need to go and do something, I need to get away from this for a while, I need just some time out. So yes, I mean, we do that. We regularly try and fit in, trips. And I mean, I think the football's been amazing this year because it's meant I had to go on more shorter trips, which in some ways has been quite nice. And Grant and I have been on a few together on our own. So it's been nice to reconnect with him because mostly we talk about food at work and, what work's doing. And he has stresses and I have my stresses. But it was nice to just have some time out just to be really, just to be a mum and a son, just going on a European football trip, living the dream. So I think it's important to kind of fit those bits in. It's not always easy to do that, and it's not always easy to see when you've gone too far. Sometimes you can sail too close to the sun and you get yourself burnt, but because I know what that looks like, I know I can't get too far to the sun. There's got to be some measures and some implementation in place where I can just take stop and go, right, that's too far today. I need to do something else today. I need to give that to someone else to worry about for a while, and I need to walk away for a bit.
So good, I guess, that, like you said, a couple of things there. One, that you recognise it yourself a little bit, but two, that you've got obviously what sounds like an incredible supportive network around you, whether that be family, friends, colleagues, the business community, and I guess a strong message that coming out again, not being frightened to ask for help.
Yes,
I guess that's the biggest thing. Yeah,
the biggest thing.
Pride gets in place sometimes.
Pride comes before a fall, my nan used to say.
Yeah.
And it's true, it does. It's not always easy. When I had my breakdown, I didn't know I was ill. I didn't recognise it. I'd gone too far over the cliff in terms of even knowing what day it was, let alone whether I was, feeding myself, not feeding myself. I just was too broken. Other people around me could see it. My mum, my family all came down, looked after me. My brother was amazing. I owned my life. So that was hard. It was hard. But when you've kind of gone through that piece, it's important to put measures in place and give yourself the pink box and open it up and have the hot chocolate, eat the cake, walk the walk, do something else, just do things that make you feel good and that are basic requirements are usually the best things. The walking along the ocean, it's free. It's probably the best gift. I think my mum walked me along the beach every day for a month after I came out of hospital, and that was my healing time. That was me getting better. And I love the sea, so,
Yeah, so it's my happy place.
It is my happy place too.
I can't imagine, obviously I've only been down here since 2012 we moved down, but I can't imagine not living here, not seeing the sea.
2.5 years I lived away in Lancashire, and I missed it every day, every single day. I mean, I'm a diver as well, so
wow.
The sea is my passion from that point of view. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for nature, and nature and nurture is very true. It's again another cliche perhaps, but getting out in nature, a half an hour walk or whatever, you can feel a different person when you come back. So I think it's important to do stuff like that.
I like that. And sticking with that a little bit, but looking at like this work-life balance scenario, what does that look like for you? Has it got easier as you've gone on? Has it got harder because of how you've grown, or with the company? You obviously are mindful of taking that bit of time, not allowing yourself to go too far that way, but what is it like? Talk to me about work-life balance for you.
Easier, yes, in some ways, because we have a management team now, so they take the the cushion of the kind of like day-to-day inquiries, problems, whatever may come into the door. So some cases, yes, but then as you grow, there are different challenges, obviously, both financial and other things you have to think about every day. So that adds a different dimension that I've got more involved with that I didn't get as involved with before. So I think yes and no. So I can go to the gym now, whereas when we were 25 people, I was probably still going at 6 o'clock in the morning making product. I don't do that, so I'm still in and around the kitchen. I'm still developing products for the team. I still go in every Christmas, and every time they get really busy, I'll be down there front line, helping. I was there Saturday helping, making gingerbread trees. 3,000 gingerbread trees Saturday morning, and a load of caramel. I had the job of making all the caramel for the caramel stars. That was fun. We're still in there, but it's definitely easier to take the time now, more so than it was when I was a lot smaller, because there's more people to take the brunt of the strain. But with that, you then lose a little bit of your kind of control over it, I suppose, and you have to trust the people that you're bringing in to make sure that they deliver that behind you, and that is disconcerting sometimes, that kind of feeling of I don't quite know whether everything's being done how I want it to be done, but I trust the team, and we do, they know me well, and they know obviously what I need and what I want to deliver, and we talk a lot and we communicate well. So yeah, I think in some ways it's easier to take time. Steve and I don't seem to take many holidays, so having said that, we don't get as many in as we perhaps should. So we certainly don't use up our full quota, but I think we do have fun though. I mean, there's lots of fun to be had both in the charity work that we do, and we support Table Talk, and which is obviously another massive food kind of compliment for me. All of the kind of that community is nice because you get a chance to go out. Rocking Horse,
obviously close to my heart. I know you've always been massive supporters of them, which is I'm really
all
grateful
of that.
for.
Yeah, especially during COVID. All of that is great. It's nourishing in a different way. So you're going out and helping others, but at the same time, you do get to have a bit of fun. Let's be honest. When we go out, it's nice to see everybody. So there's that side, and I think that's all kind of fits in. It all complements itself, really. So if you have a bit of, you have a little bit of charity work, and you can go out for lunches and do bits like that, and gym and everything else, and friends. Before you know it. You have something resembling a social life.
I know we talked a little bit briefly offline as well, and I'd like to just touch on this for the listeners as well. I know you mentioned about what it's like at home as a family business. When you're at home, how are you able to go, let's not talk about work?
Oh, my children tell you I'm not very good at that. I'm absolutely rubbish at it. So when they were all living at home, we had a policy where no phones at the table was always a thing, and no talking about work, of which, there's forfeits to be had if you did. So Steve and I are really not particularly great at leaving work at work and not bringing it home. Now there's just Lara's come back from university, and both the boys have left home now, and they're living away. It's a lot harder for us to kind of put that demarcation line in place, because the children definitely kept us on track with that. But we do try. We try to have like a time that we stop talking, and then something will creep in. It's really hard to do, because you'll talk about something and then that lead on something else, and before you know it, it's midnight and you're like still talking about work.
When it's your passion, because you can listen. This conversation, you can tell it just oozes out of you. Right?
Yeah.
I'm just listening to you talk, and you can see like your face lights up at every stage, and all the things that's gone on, and all. So people talk about. I've mentioned this on here a couple of times. A good friend of mine, Rob Starr from the Star Trust, you might know, but he talked about it in a really great way about work-life balance. And he says, you know what, this is my life. And he says, I've got works in there, and he swims every day in the sea, and that's in there, and my writing and all them bits, and then family and everything's part of that life. So I'll put my work-life balance perfect, because sometimes, because I love my work and I love what I do, and he loves the Star Trust and that element of it, he goes, that's a big part of it. So that's just, some days that takes more of my time than other stuff, but that's okay, because it's all just part of this one bubble. So I think there's something, where people go, work-life balance has got to be, I can't work 9 to 5, and then I'll come home and I'm going to switch off and not think about that. When you've got your own business, there isn't a 9 to 5, so you can't really do that. So it's just being able to go, when you love what you do, it's okay to, isn't it? It's okay to, I'm aware, I'm a little bit, I'm aware that we've got to take them times out, and we've really highlighted that today, as you've mentioned, and gratefully sharing your story. So it's so important to take that time. I really get that, and being able to switch off. But with the same token to that, when you love what you do and you're so passionate about it, it's okay to let them bits creep in, maybe, and there be an overlap, I guess.
I'm sure my team don't like it when I go away though and send loads of photographs of bakeries and products that I've seen and what about this and what about that, and I spam all the WhatsApp groups and everyone's going, oh God, she's on holiday, God help us all. I live and breathe work. I am a workaholic. I'm a certified workaholic. There is no getting away from that. My family, everyone has their vices. Mine happens to be work. And so I'm not advocating that that's for everybody. And you are right. My work is part of who I am. It's part of what I do. It's part of why I get up in the morning. It's not the entirety, because there's lots of other stuff in there. You know, there's the diving, the holidays, the football now takes over more of my life than anything else, it feels like. There's a fabric, but it's all rolled into one, because it's all interconnected. Because the travel brings ideas, brings it back to the food, and then we try new things and we come up with new ideas, and then it all kind of rolls back into one again. So it's like a big messy ball, really. You throw a few things in there. Sometimes, too much goes to one side and you have to bring it back into centre again. But ultimately, if you love what you do, which I do, then it's fine, as long as you're keeping yourself in check. If you're having fun, then and you're enjoying what you do, then it's not a problem. I think how much work is too much work is different for everybody, and some days it's too much for me, and I say it's too much for me, but I'm very good at telling people now, which I never used to be very good at. And other days I can work and time's flown and I'm fine with that. I was down at Portsmouth last night, and I was there from 7:30 till got home about 10:30 last night. Don't think I had a break. I had a couple cups of coffee, and that was my day. But it was amazing. I had a great day. We created some amazing foods. We had a lot of fun. I spoke to lots of fans. They enjoyed themselves. It was great. It was a great day. But is that too much work? I mean, it would be for some people, but for me, no.
And I guess again, the message for anyone starting on their entrepreneurial journey, or people that are 10 years in or whatever, like me, the key, and what I've heard you say a couple of times, the key is to enjoy that, right? Got to enjoy that journey, even those tough. Because I spoke to the one episode that came out recently was with Ian Fletcher-Price, and he actually was quite honest about it. You know what, those early days, I don't think I did enjoy it that much. Like, you're worrying about money all the time, and financial. When you're not driven by money necessarily, it
is the hardest part.
It's still that hard part, isn't it? Because where am I going to pay that next bill? And that's what keeps you up at night, and that's a struggle, isn't it? So it's trying to, I guess, take yourself out of that and just remember why you're doing what you're doing, and believe that, as you've alluded to, believe that what you're doing is the right thing, and you will get through it, and it will be all right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, financial worries are always they're part of the heart of any business, really. And especially as you grow as fast as we have, we definitely grow too quickly. We definitely take on too much, and that can cause financial problems. I've had some great support along the way. I do have great support along the way from different financial companies, but nonetheless, it is stressful, and it's probably the least favourite part of my world, if I'm honest.
I'm with you.
It's a necessity that keeps us all moving, that we have to kind of deal with. But I think it's just
what gets you through that then? When it is like robbing Peter to pay Paul, wherever you are in that, what tools do you use? What's your coping mechanisms for that?
Talking to different people, discussing ideas. Local community is good for that as well. Networking, we've got a lot of support in our local networking groups. I've used the same financial advisor and support that I've had for the last 13 years, who's got me through some amazing times. Sometimes yes, sometimes it's a no, and then you move on. But there's always suggestions, and I think, I suspect the next part of our journey may include having to look at investment, because we've done a lot in our 13 years, but 28,000 square foot and, contracts coming in that are in the millions now, it gets to a point where you have to recognise that and go, okay, what's next for Piglets? What does Piglets need next? And I think what we've done very well, Steve and I, is we always say Piglets is over there. Because when we were in the early days, it was, it's Piglets, 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 Piglets. And now when we're talking, we say Piglets is there. What does Piglets need and what do we need? And we've started talking like that now. So now we're a much bigger company. It's like, that's what Piglets needs. That's what we think about Piglets, rather than, you've done this and you haven't done that and I don't agree with you. And, so we've tried to take it down a little notch and just gone, right, okay, well, Piglets is over there. This is what we both believe, but this is what Piglets needs. So we'll do what Piglets needs, not what we both think, and then we try and put it in a third party. It's a difficult thing to do, but if you can keep that kind of perspective, it is, it's its own entity now. It has grown. It's, it's a massive brand now. We're across, God knows how many households in the UK. We have 800 businesses that are buying from us, iconic venues, all sorts of people that buy from us. Even I'm surprised that sometimes, how many people have tried a product and where they've tried it. I have trouble keeping track these days. So, and sometimes people are surprised that they've had a product because it doesn't necessarily say Piglets on it, because people are buying, through us and want their own brand to shine through. So it's grown. It's its own little beast now. Yeah, sure. It's a teenager. It's a rowdy teenager. It's definitely grown up. And as it grows into adulthood, we need to recognise we might need some help to get to that next stage. And that will be something we have to look at.
Incredible. Before we come to what was the final question, it was something I did want to touch on briefly about. I know we mentioned, we had a chat recently when we was at a lunch about it, and about making mistakes, about failure, and your relationship with that. I guess just share a little bit about that. I'm keen for you to share that with the listeners, your relationship with failure and the culture within the company empowering people to maybe make mistakes.
Yeah, I mean there is no, to a point, there's no kind of like recompense for failure in our business. Things go wrong, people make mistakes, we're all human. Obviously we have to adjust and figure out why we got to the failure in the first place. But personally, failure for me is an opportunity. Every time you fail, it's an opportunity to figure out how you could do something better or different the next time. And every time you fail, sometimes it gives you an opportunity to go, well, I probably shouldn't have been doing that in the first place. So sometimes you need to look at failure as not as the big black doom and gloom that people think it is. And trust me, I've failed a few times in my life, so I know a thing or two about failure. So I think, I don't see failure as a pessimistic thing, which might sound a bit odd. But I see failure as like, so if you've made something and it didn't work, or you put it out there, or you made a decision and, last year was volatile with all the food price increases up and down, you make a decision. We made a decision to grow a whole patisserie team. And we missed some things out, and we, made some mistakes, and we had to kind of think about that and bring it all back and start again in some ways. Not start again, but actually put the foundations in place. That could be seen as failure, but for me it's an opportunity to actually fix a problem and make it better and more beautiful than it was in the first place. So I think see failure as a stepping stone to the success you're going to be, would be my advice.
Love that, because it's so much, like as you alluded to, there's so much about just reframing it, right?
Yeah. It's
just how you reframe it. Like you said, people narrative around failure is this big black hole. Yeah. You don't want to talk about it because, I don't know, I've been seen as a failure. You don't want to talk about that. Whereas if you can reframe it slightly.
Yeah, I mean, I think people think it's this kind of, just something to be avoided at all costs. But actually, when you fail, you grow as a person. You learn something about yourself. You learn something about your environment, the world you're in. You learn maybe actually that failure was the right thing for you at the time, whether that's, failing in business, and trust me, I've nearly been down that road too. But when we went to the brink of kind of losing everything, we learned something and we did something and we pivoted and we did something new. Look at COVID, it gives you opportunity. Failure gives you opportunity. It gives you opportunity and perspective to actually look at whether you should be doing that or whether you should be doing something different. And sometimes we don't look up. We don't look up, we don't look around, we're too busy like like this, beavering away making those 10,000 pies of Brighton, we don't look up and go, oh, there's a whole new world out there. Look at how pretty that one can look. Look how beautiful our afternoon teas are. It gives you perspective to look around and see things from a different viewpoint, different lens. And I think I have learnt that from 13 years of being at Piglets, that failure can sometimes give you the perspective you need to do something more beautiful than you did in the first place.
Brilliant. If you could go back to any point in your journey of all that you've shared with me today and change it, what would it be and why?
I wouldn't change anything, because every part, even including my difficult, dark times, every part of me has made me the person I am today. So if you change one part of that, I might not have two beautiful children. If I change that part, I might not have, the ability to cook. I might not have gone into catering. I might not have become, if I didn't have my time when I was a child learning what I did with my grandparents, I wouldn't be who I am today. So it's just easy to look back and go, well, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have got married, or I wouldn't have made all those mistakes. But mistakes are what makes us who we are today. Without the mistakes, you wouldn't have the other side, which is the fun and the happy times. And I don't know. I can't tell you that I would change anything. I would love to say I wouldn't want to hand crimp 10,000 pies again. That would be one moment that would definitely be up there. But without those 10,000 pies, we wouldn't be in Brighton Hove Albion today, making what we do and making the journey possible. So you can't change anything. It's impossible. You could go back in a time machine and change some stuff, but everything would look different, wouldn't it? Everything would be different. Everything would be different. You might not even have Piglets anymore, because you'd have made a change and you'd have broken a piece, and then the future would look different. So I'm a great believer in always look forward. You're not heading in that direction. You're heading in this one. So, quote from my other half, who is very much an optimist. Look in that direction. That's where we're going. That's gone. We can't change that. We just could only change the future.
Brilliant. Look, this is our last life in 60 seconds, and probably the essence, obviously, of the podcast and what I'm trying to define or work out. And with your incredible story, where you've been, where you are, where you're going, how do you define success?
God, I try not to think about that, really. It just happens, It's just something that happens along the way when you're having fun, really. Success is something that happens to you when you're having fun. How do I define it? I suppose, I don't know. I think Piglets are about to be on land, sea and air. That's a pretty defining moment for me. That's pretty special that, we've gone that far that we're actually now looking almost globally, which is a little bit of a scary thought. But success is about building something beautiful, I love the people I work with that work with me. I'm inspired by the 100 people that work at Piglets every day, and I think they make me very proud, and I'm very proud of their journey as much as I am proud of our journey. And it's symbiotic, because you do well, everyone does well, and that's important to me. I want the people that work for me to get to their end destination, whether that's with me for 6 months, 6 years, whatever it might be. Everyone has a destination, and as long as they're on their journey, they're enjoying it whilst they're there, and they're getting to their end destination, then that's what success looks like.
Love the opening part of that success is having fun.
Yeah.
That's so great, and because you mentioned there actually about destination. There's so much of us that we go, I'm going to be successful when I get in, and there's going to be a destination point, and when you get to that point, that's when I can be happy, or that's when I have. But as you just alluded, if success is having fun and enjoying that journey, it's not necessarily then about going to that destination.
I don't know what the destination is.
Exactly.
I'm still on the journey.
That's the brilliant thing about it, isn't it? That's what real success is, isn't it? Sure. For me, I guess, because there's so many people I've spoke to that maybe have reached a destination, sold a business, and gone out, and that's not joy and happiness there. It's because it's it's the process to get there. And
yeah, and as I mentioned before, I'm not motivated by money. As my family will tell you, I'm living in a derelict house currently that I am trying to work out how to renovate. So definitely not one of those people. But again, that's, it's about even our personal lives where we have that going on at the moment. The end kind of destination is whatever it will be. I mean, it's the journey we're going on to get there, and the journey that we're going on with Piglets at the moment. I'm just worried about getting through Christmas. I don't know about over there, that's over there.
So you're not a 5-year plan?
Lifetime away. No, people ask me that. Yeah. No, I'm not. No. Come out of COVID, let's go and buy a 28,000 square foot building. Most people don't do that, do they, Sam? So, no, I'm definitely not a 5-year plan kind of girl. I did at one point, and I haven't done this in a while, but I used to write a business plan for the month. And I'd have a business plan for the month, and we'd have key things on there that we want to do. And I'm going to try and get back to it in January because I've been hugely busy with the current growth. But we used to write down, and it'd just be thoughts of, this is what we want to do in January, and this is the obstacles we might have in our way. These are the things we need to tackle. These are our challenges, and we pin it up on the wall in the staff room so everyone could see it, so everyone knew what January was about. And I think that's, business plans for 5 years. How could you write? How could I have written the last 5 years? Could you imagine? Oh, yeah, I thought...
Would you not have had global pandemic in there?
I thought I'd put a global pandemic in there. Then I thought I'd have the Ukraine war and ridiculous prices that nobody could actually sustain, and hopefully survive that. And then, by the way, in the middle of all that, I thought I'd go and, get 4.5 times the building that I've currently got. By the way, still keeping the old one. Grow from 25 to 100. I mean, you can't plan for that, can you? I can plan for January. I might just do January. January seems like achievable. January seems like somewhere where I might want to be. And then we'll worry about February and March, and we'll go from there. But I know people do. And in all seriousness, yes, of course, we do have to have some structure. This is why I have a management team now, because everyone else is much more sensible than me. So we now have a proper board and proper people to keep me grounded and tell me what I need to do. And I participate in those meetings. But in my head, I'm still just worried about January. And I'm worrying about Valentine's products and Mother's Day products and what we can create next. That's what I'm worrying about at the moment. But yes, and I have everyone else to kind of tell me what to do in between to keep me where I'm supposed to be.
Brilliant. Last one. What's the future hold then for Piglets?
Future of Piglets. So I alluded to the fact we're now in British Airways lounges. And that's been really wonderful new piece of business that we're starting in the new year. 9 new lines going in there, which is amazing. We're pitching for some airline business. We are already on MSC Cruises, DFDS, going across the channel. I'm looking at exporting for the first time, so that's something I want to look at. I'm quite excited about that because I think it's gone really well, and the kind of just going on and doing I did some tasting with my head of sales on one of the ships, and the French are very picky people. They want to know exactly what all the ingredients are in their products, but it was well received. So I think I've kind of just broadening our horizons a little bit and thinking, actually, let's not just sort of stick to the UK. We seem to be doing quite well here. Let's look at other possibilities, other avenues. So there's definitely a feeling of expansion of ideas, and nothing's sort of impossible in that sense. So we're all exploring different ideas that we think might be the next part of our journey. Me personally, I want to take some time at some point to write a book, and it's going to be called Half a Jar of Jam. And it harks back to when we were children, and my mum was really struggling, and she'd been left on her own. And I remember very vividly having half a jar of jam in the fridge and having to walk to my grandparents' house to eat dinner. And it will be about my journey and what's happened, and hopefully we will raise some money for charity and help some more people.
Wow. What an amazing book that will be.
Just got to find some time, Sam.
Yeah. Joe, honestly, I feel so honoured to have these conversations. I feel very blessed and lucky to be in this position, I guess, and almost admiring you a bit from afar. So although we've known each other over the years, never really yet been able to sit down and knew as much, obviously, as I've found out today. And I knew it would be an amazing episode, just purely on the fact of from afar watching what Piglets have achieved and how incredible it's been. But honestly, you've blown me away with just your openness, honesty, just an absolutely incredible journey that you was able to share with us. And it's been such a fantastic episode, and I'm honestly so humbled and grateful that you're able to come on and share it with me so openly. So thank you so much.
That's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on. And I hopefully I've reached out to some people that maybe are also finding it difficult in life, and if that helps, then it's been worth a while.
I'm sure you have. Thank you, Joe. And that, as they say, is a wrap.